Every once in a while, a story comes along that just kind of confirms all of your biases, or at least your biases in regards to a particular issue. And this is a story that I think confirms all my biases about, private versus public education and government subsidizing every goddamn thing, in this particular case, education, and the way it's all just kind of like a money grubbing scheme as a way to just kind of take money from the taxpayer and just kind of drain it out, milk it like a cow. This is the headline alone pissed me off before I even read the article. The headline already made me mad. $41.2 billion budget the New York City Department of Education has. That's just one city. It's the most populated city in the country, but still, this is one city. New York City Public School Boss says mammoth $41.2 billion budget ask still isn't enough, wants hundreds of millions more. I understand it's a big, heavily populated city, got a lot of kids you have to contend with, but you're telling me that $41.2 billion isn't enough to properly educate all of them? Which, fine, I will take you at your word that it's not, but then that just, like I said, that confirms my biases. That public education is dog shit. Dog shit. Anyway, shout out to the New York Post, base New York Post, and of course, multi-person articles, because journalists can't write on their own anymore. Now they have to write in teams. Haley Brown, Carl Campanile, however, I don't know how you pronounce that, and Matt Troutman. The Department of Education, this is the New York Department of Education. The Department of Education's mammoth $4.2 billion budget plan for next year is a whopping third of the entire city's. Yes, the entire city's budget plan, one third is going towards public schools. But it still won't be enough, school officials claimed on Thursday. Schools Chancellor Melissa Alves Ramos, I'm sorry, told the city council that the DOE still needs hundreds of millions more to enact a controversial new class size law, plus additional bucks for Governor Kathy Hochul's pending phone ban. This is what I don't understand. Why does the public schools need more money in order to ban phones? Like, I'm assuming this is a smartphone ban, so kids aren't allowed to carry their smartphones in class. Why would that cost more money? Why would that cost extra money to, like, what, to enforce it? Like, I'm not sure. Quote, we also have major expenses looming on the horizon, most significantly compliance with the class size mandate, she pointedly told council members during a budget hearing. This funding and headcount are not currently in the budget plan. The city will need to hire 4,000 more educators to deal with the new United Federation of Teachers-backed requirements that classroom sizes max out at 20 students for early childhood grades and up to 25 for high school, the counselor said. United Federation of Teachers, so a teachers union. Of course, a teachers union is trying to squeeze more money out of the government. The gobsmacking, arguably vague cash pleas come as New York City schools, the largest district in the nation, faces years of declining enrollment, middling test scores, and chronic absenteeism despite raking in ever-increasing amounts of dough. So yes, no matter how much money the government, the local government, and possibly the federal government through the Department of Education, no matter how much money gets pumped into the New York City school system, it just continues to get worse. Charter schools, privatize things. Come on. It's clearly not working. It's time to try something new. Quote, people need to stop pretending that the New York City Department of Education is about serving kids, said Ken Girardin, whatever, research director of the Empire Center for Public Policy. It's about job creation for adults. Accept that and everything else makes sense. I agree. It's about job creation and about lining the pockets of the teachers' unions. The proposed education budget for the 2026 fiscal year is already an enormous slice. 36% of Mayor Eric Adams' a $14.5 billion total spending plan, even without the additional cash. If approved by the council, the school budget would increase by nearly $820 million, so almost $1 billion more dollars is what they need, compared to this fiscal year's adopted budget. Education officials say. Spending per student is already at a whopping 32,284, even as enrollment has dipped 12% since the 2018-2019 school year, according to an Empire Center report. I'm sure a lot of the more affluent New Yorkers are now the ones that were like still had money but still put their kids in public school, are probably finally all like, okay, fine, private school it is, or homeschooling is another possibility, and then there's probably just a lot of parents who are all like, public school's stupid, I ain't sending my kids there. It's not making a difference. They ain't learning shit. They still can't read. They're still getting into trouble. Blah 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 blah. What's the point? Quote, enrollment in the city public school system has declined dramatically, but there has not been an adjustment in the budget, said Daniela Souza Egorov. I don't know how you pronounce that. Senior policy fellow at the Manhattan Institute think tank, who authored a recent report that found a whopping, they really like the term whopping. They've used it several times in this article. That found a whopping 35% of city students are chronically absent. So they just ain't coming to school. So why do they still need more money? Quote, the question that policymakers should ask is how do we improve learning outcomes for New York City school children rather than asking for more money? The city is simply paying more and educating fewer kids, said Girardine, noting enrollment used to stand at 1.1 million kids. Now the school system has roughly 900,000 students, city school data shows. Girardine argued the class size law signed by Hochul in 2022 and only affecting New York City will only make things worse. The UFT, that's the United Federation of Teachers, the UFT strongly pushed for the law, contending it would improve conditions in classrooms and help better educate kids. Smaller class sizes is not necessarily a bad thing, but when you have a dearth of students and not enough teachers, what are you going to do? The bill caps kindergarten through third grade classes at 20 students, with further limits for fourth through eighth grade at 23 students and high school classes at 25 students. The city has to slash classroom sizes by the 2027-28 school year under the new law. Adams and his administration fiercely opposed the mandate, maintaining it saddled the city with roughly $500 million a year just for elementary schools with no real help from the state. DOE officials didn't respond to the Post request for estimates of how much exactly they expect to pony up in the coming school year on the class size law. They also didn't respond to a request for the expected cost of Hochul's proposed cell phone ban, which Aviles Ramos said required increased funding to make it effective and sustainable. Why, though? I guess enforcement, but why would the teachers need more money in order to not, why would the schools need more money? New York City public schools already have metal detectors. Kids bring their phones to school. You take them at the door. They'll set off metal detectors. It doesn't make any sense. I don't see how making it a rule that kids can't have, assuming that's what this is, because I'm not actually 100% positive. But that's the only thing that makes sense, is banning kids from carrying their cell phones to school. Why does that cost more money to do? I don't sure, I would be like, okay, fine, but you have to explain to me how the enforcement of that would cost more money. You already have school resource officers, you already have metal detectors, you already have teachers, you already have, faculty and administration. You shouldn't need more money just to do that. The governor has also proposed a statewide cell phone ban, a much need step. I think it meant much needed. A much needed step, but one that requires increased funding to make it an effective and sustainable effort, Aviles Ramos said. Beyond paying for the class size law, the proposed budget calls for $7.7 billion for pension and debt-related funds and 816.6, I assume million, more in spending than last year's adopted budget. That's not all. The nearly billion-dollar jump doesn't account for the fact that the DOE is set to go over budget by more than $500 million this fiscal year. That's mostly due to so-called Carter cases, in which parents can be reimbursed by the city school system if they enroll their child in private schools in cases where public schools can't meet their kids' special needs. So it's kind of like a ass backwards version of school choice. You know, the idea that instead, like for the people who can't afford to send their kids to private school, you give them vouchers so that they can go, or not school choice, but the voucher program. I said school choice. That was a mistake. But it's like an ass backwards version of the voucher program. So it's just like, okay, fine. Here's a voucher to cover tuition at a private school if your kid has special needs that a public school can't meet. But like, again, it's not really a voucher system. You enroll the kid, and then the state just pays the school. Instead of just like, I understand you can't necessarily trust parents to just give them the cash because a lot of parents, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of parents will just spend it on everything but the private school. Eric Nadelstern, a former deputy chancellor of the DOE under Mayor Mike Bloomberg, said educators must demonstrate that spending is tied to student performance, not just keep asking for more money. That's true. The New York City Department of Education seems to be, and I mean, this is probably true across multiple cities across the country, but it seems like every year they ask for more money, and every year they have diminishing returns. Like, name another business in the world where every single year they ask for more and more money, and every single year they give you worse and worse results with no sign of improvement. He said schools whose enrollments plummet should not be rewarded with the same amount of funding. Quote, schools that lose students and can't recruit new students should see budget cuts. Otherwise, you're rewarding failure, Nadelstern said, alluding to the hold harmless provision. Recent scores show just 33% of fourth graders were deemed proficient in math and 28% in reading. Just 23% of eighth graders were proficient in math, 29% in reading. So, yeah, these kids can't fucking read. They can't do math. The Council's Committee on Education Chair, the Council's Committee on Education Chair, Rita Joseph, acknowledged the lagging test scores and truancy rates, but argued it showed school programs should get more funding. Of course it does. Oh, we're doing worse. You should give us more money, and then we'll do better. But every time we give you more money, you just do even worse than you did last time. Our levels of, quote, our levels of chronic absenteeism are still higher than before the pandemic. Students are still recovering from learning loss, and mental health issues are still of high concern. Now is not the time to slow down our investment while we look to support our teachers, students, and families, she said. Council member Robert Holden, a Democrat of Queens, shocking absolutely fucking nobody, Democrats, meanwhile called for a full audit of the DOE as he lambasted the class size law. Quote, the DOE already takes up a whopping 1/3 of the city's budget, yet they're demanding even more, while many schools, especially my district, lack the space to meet the class size mandate, he said. Quote, instead of throwing more money at the problem, we need a full audit, reforms to wasteful policies like the rubber room, and a real plan to make DOE live within its means. Oh, well, actually, that's a fairly base take from that Democrat. I got to be honest with you. I mean, he's not calling for the abolition of the New York Department of Education. He just wants but to call for an audit of it and to call out the problem as he sees it, that you people don't deserve more money because you're failing, that's a fairly base take for a Democrat. Good on you, Robert Holden. Good on you. So, like I said, sometimes you get stories that just confirm your biases. It happens. Anyway, you know the drill at this point. Like the video. Like it. Hit the like button. Do it. You specifically. I'm talking to you, the person listening to this. Go down the little like section. Click that like button. Click it. Smash it if you have to. And then, follow the links and sub to all my other channels and follow me on X and come hang out on the game streams on Rumble on the weekends and, you know, find a bone, shine it up real nice, turn that sumbitch sideways and throw it at me.